Hi, and welcome back to our training module on serving and working with Black clients who have been impacted by justice involvement. In this last video, we'll explore the intersections of justice involvement and collateral consequences, the intersecting barriers faced by Black people in the criminal justice system, and how to support a client with an EPSR or IRCA report. Let's get started. Let's begin by defining the meaning of collateral consequences when it comes to justice system involvement. When someone becomes involved with the justice system, they and their life become inextricably connected to it, meaning they might not only face criminal legal issues, but also civil legal issues and other intersecting barriers and issues. Depending on their life circumstances, these intersecting issues or collateral consequences can range from minor inconveniences to life-altering impacts. Especially for those from marginalized or low-income communities, justice involvement can have debilitating effects on their life and hinder theirs and their family's prosperity. This is because justice involvement is not siloed from the rest of an individual's life and can have impacts beyond their charges and sentencing. For example, someone who is sentenced to time inside a correctional institution may be at risk of eviction if they can't pay their rent, or they may be at risk of losing their job if they can't attend work. Or conversely, someone who is already unhoused may be arrested and charged with crimes that target unhoused individuals such as trespassing or loitering, bringing them into the justice system where they will be exposed to potential fines that they cannot afford, or subject to time inside correctional institutions, which further entrench them into marginalization. These things can happen to someone even before they are convicted of any crime. Simply being charged with a criminal offense can lead to things like bail conditions, time spent in custody before a trial, or even information being made public to friends and neighbors, which can lead to countless ramifications for individuals and their loved ones. It can also create or exacerbate health and mental health issues, leaving individuals who come into contact with the justice system to navigate both legal and social issues all at the same time. But how these collateral consequences intersect with systemic racism and the residual impacts of slavery and segregation influence how Black people experience the collateral consequences of justice involvement. And it's important as a service provider working in the criminal justice space to keep that in mind. So, let's take a look at some ways that you can best support Black clients impacted by justice involvement. When considering collateral consequences, it's crucial to remember how experiences of systemic and personal discrimination will pervade the consequences and experiences of Black people involved in the criminal justice system. Not only are Black people more likely to be over-policed, overcharged, and over-incarcerated, making their experiences with the justice system longer, more difficult, and harder to extricate themselves from, but they are also more likely to experience additional collateral consequences. For example, someone who is justice involved may experience difficulty in finding or maintaining stable housing or employment because of their criminal record or because of their justice involvement. However, someone who is Black and experiencing these issues may face the added discrimination against their racial identity. So, what can you do to help? There are some things you can keep in mind when working with Black clients in your practice. The first is, of course, making racially and culturally appropriate referrals to Black community service providers in your area. Where these services are available, there are things you can do in making referrals to make sure your client is receiving the appropriate services. The most important is relationship building. Like we learned about in the last module, relationship building is crucial to supporting your clients. Taking the time to listen to the client, adopt a trauma-informed lens that takes into consideration their individual circumstances and their story, but also the impacts of systemic discrimination, is necessary to building a meaningful relationship and fostering an equitable and collaborative environment. You should also keep in mind additional resources that your clients might need, like interpreter services. Asking your client ahead of time about their preferences and the availability of resources in their area can better help you assist them going forward and ensure that other service providers, including legal professionals who may be assisting them, are well informed of any existing barriers. Where racially or culturally appropriate services are unavailable, you can still ensure that these needs are valued and included in your work with your clients, and make sure that this is represented to any criminal justice actors they may be encountering. On an individual level, you can use the lessons shared in these modules to incorporate anti-Black racism lenses and approaches in your work with individual clients. Beyond that, you can also engage with duty counsel, police, and other legal professionals to promote and advocate for the use of racially and culturally appropriate systems and services. One example of where you can advocate for your client for access to racially and culturally appropriate and responsive services is through the use of IRCA or EPSR reports. Impact of race and culture assessments, also known as enhanced pre-sentence reports, are court documents that encourage judges to consider the justice-involved individual's experiences with systemic racism and discrimination in their decision-making, allowing for a review of the systemic and background factors that may have contributed to the commission of the offense, including poverty, lack of employment, and the over-policing of Black bodies. The reports are intended to help judges and crowns understand how poverty, marginalization, and social exclusion linked to race may have influenced an individual's actions or circumstances. However, there have been concerns around their use, specifically due to shortages of trained writers, a lack of awareness or understanding among legal professionals regarding their purpose and application, and concerns about delays in sentencing due to difficulties in obtaining reports. But these reports remain relatively new, and they are still something you can bring up to your client as a tool which might be helpful to them in their criminal proceedings. You can also take steps to try to advocate for them to ensure that the report is not used solely for sentencing, but also as a chance to provide holistic support and assistance beyond its use in the criminal proceeding. Let's take a look at a few other common intersections and how you can help. The first is with a client who is experiencing a housing or job loss. If you have a client who has been incarcerated and is looking to return to the community upon release, it's important to understand the impact that their departure may have had while they've been away. Someone who is looking for a new place to live or a new job will not only be carrying the stigma of a criminal record, but will also have the hypervisibility of a Black body. As we learned in the previous modules, Black individuals are systemically discriminated against because of their skin color. While discrimination for having a criminal record for which you have not received a pardon or record suspension is legal in Ontario, discrimination on the basis of race is not. If your client is experiencing discrimination in finding shelter or employment, there are legal recourses which might be available to them. In these cases, it's important to refer your client to a legal service provider who works in human rights law, or to a specialty legal clinic like the Black Legal Action Center, for additional information, resources, advice, and representation where possible. Another collateral consequence of justice involvement, which can arise for Black individuals who have immigrated to Canada, is that they may suffer immigration consequences due to their justice involvement, some of which can be very severe. For example, certain criminal convictions can lead to a non-citizen being deported, or can lead to someone applying for citizenship to be deemed inadmissible because of that conviction. Permanent residents can also lose their status and be removed from Canada if they are convicted of certain more serious offenses. There are also cases where non-citizens may be detained if there is a belief that they are unlikely to appear at their immigration proceedings. These individuals can be and are detained in correctional institutions. These collateral consequences of justice involvement can be severe and life-altering, meaning it is crucial for you to refer any clients who are non-citizens and facing justice involvement to a legal professional with immigration law experience. Ensuring your clients have access to proper legal advice and legal representation is necessary to providing them with an effective defense and the best chance at avoiding these extreme collateral consequences. In all of these situations, it is crucial to create open spaces and actively listen to your clients to better understand their unique barriers and experiences and which of these collateral consequences they might be experiencing. Black people in Canada who are involved or impacted by the criminal justice system will require specific interventions, that are culturally safe and appropriate and informed by context. Most importantly, within an anti-Black racism lens. We hope these modules shed light on a few key places to start.